My parents told me there wouldn't be enough space for me at the annual family retreat. Then they invited 118 people, all 6 of my siblings, their families, in-laws, even cousins and friends. I didn't say a word. I took action instead. 9 hours later, my mom was screaming. "So, how was the retreat?" my friend Mia asked, like she was commenting on the weather. I blinked. "What retreat?" She laughed a little, then tilted her head. "Your sister posted about it. Looked amazing. Matching shirts and everything." She pulled out her phone. And there it was. A photo taken from above. A drone shot, obviously. A sprawling resort tucked against a lake. 118 people posed in tidy rows like someone was trying to break a family record. A banner stretched across the middle. 2025 Annual Family Retreat. I recognized every single face. My parents, front and center. My 6 siblings. Their partners. Their kids. A few cousins I hadn't seen in years. Even the in-laws. There was a color scheme. There were laminated name tags. Everyone. Except me. "Oh," I said lightly, forcing a smile. "Yeah, I wasn't there." Technically, Mia blinked. "Oh, got it. Got it." She started to say something else, but I waved it off with a small shrug and a sip of wine. It didn't seem worth explaining. Not there. Not with 6 people chatting about oat milk and vacation deals across the table. Not with the shrimp skewers still going around like everything was normal. So I did what I've done for years. I smiled. I nodded. I laughed at a story I wasn't really listening to. I made eye contact. Tilted my head. I was composed. My heart, on the other hand, was sprinting in circles like it had just remembered something urgent. 10 minutes later, I excused myself to the bathroom. The hallway light buzzed overhead. I closed the door, locked it quietly, and sat on the edge of the tub. It smelled like lavender soap and someone's hair gel. I opened my phone. Instagram first. There were photos, dozens of them. Lakeside brunches, campfire nights, my brothers holding toddlers, my sisters in matching sundresses with retreat crew hats. One shot of my parents slow dancing under string lights. Someone had coordinated all this. A spreadsheet existed. This wasn't casual. I checked my sister's story. There was even a hashtag, #retreat to reconnect. Then I remembered the phone call, a few weeks earlier. I'd asked my mom, offhandedly, "Hey, are we doing anything this year for the retreat?" She'd sounded rushed. "We're just keeping it small," she said. "Not enough space for everyone." Not enough space. Right. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. She said it so breezily, and I've been trained, in that quiet middle child way, not to push, not to take up space. So I didn't ask follow-up questions. I didn't ask for dates. I didn't ask who was going. I just assumed I'd hear if something was happening. I kept scrolling. 118 people. A group photo where my absence stood out like a missing tooth. And the stupidest part was, this wasn't even new. When I was 10, there was a cousin's birthday party that got too full for me. When I was 15, I found out the family went to a lake house weekend. My name wasn't on the group message. And once, I remember helping pack favor bags for one of these retreats. I ironed the stupid t-shirts. And yet here I was, still surprised. Still hoping, I guess. The tears came fast. Quiet. Controlled. I didn't sob. That would have felt too theatrical. No, these were the kind of tears that slip out before you even realize they've started. Not loud enough to hear, just enough to sting. There was a knock on the bathroom door. "You okay?" Mia's voice. I cleared my throat. "Yeah, stomach thing. Be right out." She paused. "Want me to get you anything?" "No, I'm good. Thanks." I didn't move for another minute. Then I stood, washed my face, and tried to repair the damage. My mascara had smudged just slightly. I wiped under my eyes with a piece of toilet paper that shredded immediately and laughed a little at myself. In the mirror, I didn't look angry or sad, just blank. I pulled my shoulders back, gave myself a practiced smile. Not warm, not fake, just enough to pass. And then I stepped back out into the hallway like I hadn't just had my stomach drop through the floor. The dinner party was still in full swing. Someone was laughing. Someone was opening a bottle of wine. Someone was explaining the best way to roast cauliflower. I sat back down, accepted dessert, smiled, played normal. Nobody noticed. But something had shifted. Something deep. I didn't need to explain what they did. I didn't even need to ask why. I didn't know it at the time, but I was 24 hours away from doing something that would change everything. I used to think loneliness was something that happened when you had no one. Turns out, it's much worse when you're surrounded by people, family even, and still feel like an uninvited guest in your own life. I'm number 4 out of 7. That's not middle child, that's median. That's, we forgot she was in the car territory, which, by the way, did happen once. They remembered before leaving the parking lot, so I guess it doesn't count. My family is big, loud, and musical. Like some chaotic Von Trapp reboot, minus the Nazis, but still kind of oppressive. Everyone sings. Some play instruments. 2 have made careers in music. Family dinners came with harmonies. Talent shows were mandatory. Group performances were recorded and uploaded to YouTube. I'm tone deaf. I didn't know that for a while. I thought I was normal. I sang in the shower, hummed along in the car. Then one day, around age 7, I joined in during a birthday chorus, and my older sister winced like I'd stabbed her with a flute. "Clara, please," she said. "You're flattening everything." I didn't know what that meant, but the laughter told me enough. It became a running gag. Clara the noise polluter. Clara the vibe killer. At one point, my brother made a chart ranking all 7 siblings by musical ability. I wasn't on it. The caption said, "Some things can't be measured." I used to try and be funny. I thought that was the one other thing I could maybe do, but my jokes always landed flat. Dry humor doesn't hit well in a room full of people who think slapstick is the pinnacle of sophistication. They coined a term, Clara joke. It meant a joke no one laughs at. Even used it on each other. "That was such a Clara joke," they'd groan, even when I wasn't in the room. One time I asked my mom if she thought I was funny. She smiled like I'd asked if I had wings. "You're clever," she said, "but you're not exactly entertaining." I stopped trying after that. At school, I'd test out my humor with friends, but always pulled back, afraid of the silence. I learned to be quiet, helpful, pleasant. That worked better. Years later, I started writing things down. Funny thoughts mostly, bits of awkwardness turned into sketches, observations that made me laugh. I still didn't think of myself as a funny person, just someone trying to figure out why nothing ever felt quite right. Then, one day, I tried performing them. Nothing major. Local open mic night. Tiny venue. Bad lighting. A mic that crackled if you breathed wrong. But the crowd laughed. Not politely. Not pity laughed. Actual, surprised laughter. I got addicted immediately. It took months before I told anyone in my family. I'd been performing semi-regularly at that point. Nothing viral, nothing major. But real people, real laughs, real sets. It felt like something. I still remember the day I mentioned it. We were sitting around after dinner, my dad retelling some story for the 3rd time, and everyone playing their usual roles. I cleared my throat. "So, I've been doing some comedy." They blinked at me. "Like performing?" my younger sister asked, smirking. "Yeah, stand up." A little club downtown." My brother actually laughed. "You? On stage?" "Well, it's not a stadium," I said. "It's mostly sticky floors and expired beer, but yes, a stage." They laughed again, not in a cruel way, in the way you laugh when someone tells you they're training for space camp at 30. "You've never been funny," my mom said gently, "but that's sweet. It's good to have hobbies." I wanted to believe it was just surprise, that once they saw me perform, they'd get it. They'd be proud. Maybe even change how they saw me. Maybe the label of unfunny would finally get scratched off. I invited them. I even picked a good show. Friday night, decent turnout, a supportive crowd. I wore a new top, rehearsed my set to death, and got there early to claim seats. I kept glancing at the door as people filtered in. A couple from my last set waved. Someone complimented my shoes. The room filled slowly but steadily, and I kept checking the door, right up until the host said my name. No one came. I scanned the room one last time as I walked up. Not a single familiar face. It hit me harder than I thought it would. Not like a punch, but like a vacuum. Like all the air in the room suddenly decided to be somewhere else. But I smiled. I opened with a throwaway line, got a laugh, found my rhythm, and I crushed it. That night, someone came up and told me they hadn't laughed like that in months. Another asked where they could find me online. I should have felt proud, but all I could think about was the empty seat in the third row I'd reserved for my mom. Someone once said that the life of a comedian is making other people laugh while you're crying inside. That night, it felt especially true. After that, I stopped inviting them. Not out of spite, out of self-preservation. They never asked about it again. Occasionally, someone would mention a new song they'd released, or a relative who had booked a tour, and someone would say, "Clara's got her little comedy thing," like I was knitting hats for squirrels. I still smiled, nodded, laughed at their jokes. But inside, something shifted. I stopped hoping they'd show up. I stopped expecting the punchline to be anything but me. I didn't plan to do it. That's the funny part, or the ironic part, or maybe just the human part. After I found out about the retreat, the one my entire family attended while I stayed home eating leftovers and pretending not to care, I went home, opened my laptop, and stared at a blinking cursor for 20 minutes. Then I wrote something. Not my usual kind of funny. Not polished. Just honest. The next night, I had a set at the club. I was going to do my usual material. Awkward dating stories, my theory that oat milk is just cardboard in liquid form, and how people who say "let's" circle back deserve a special corner in hell. But when they called my name, I left the notes in my bag and walked on stage with something new. Most comedians, I said into the mic, get into stand-up because their families laughed at their jokes. I got into comedy because mine didn't. At all. They actually created a category for it. Clara joke. You know, like a dad joke, but meaner. And apparently contagious, people laughed. So I kept going. In my house, if you told a bad joke, it wasn't just a flop. It was a full-blown scandal. I should have had my own documentary, The Girl Who Wasn't Funny. That one got applause. I talked about how my siblings could all sing, how even the toddlers in the family had rhythm, and how I was basically the designated audience member, the family hype woman, minus the hype. And then I said it. Last week, my parents told me there wasn't enough space for me at the annual family retreat. Then they invited 118 people. That line got a full gasp-laugh combo. My favorite reaction. I let it hang in the air a second longer. So yeah, I guess there wasn't enough space. Not at the resort. Just in their idea of who belongs, I got off stage to a standing ovation. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like I'd just yanked out a splinter that had been festering under my skin for years. It hurt, but I could finally breathe. The next morning, at 7:03 a.m., my phone rang. My mother's name on the screen. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. The fifth time, I picked up, mostly out of morbid curiosity. She didn't say hello. She didn't pause. She went straight into screaming. "How dare you!" she said. "Someone saw your little show," she hissed. "They told us what you said. You humiliated us." Not "are you okay?" Not even a half-hearted question about what I'd been thinking. Just full-throttle, high-volume fury. "It was a 10-minute set," I said. I didn't name names. "You didn't have to," she snapped. "Everyone knows who we are. Your siblings have reputations to protect. You're dragging us through the mud just because you didn't get your way." "You mean just because I wasn't invited?" I said dryly. "Or are we still pretending that didn't happen?" She didn't answer. "Do you know what your brother said?" she continued. "He said he might lose a gig over this. And your sister is mortified. She says people are calling her fake online. So, are you saying people believed me?" Silence. "I see." She hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. I felt something colder than that. Like I'd just been told, for the 100th time, that their image was more important than me. By lunchtime, the group messages started blowing up. My sister sent a novel-length rant about how she'd always supported me, which was hilarious considering she once told a boyfriend I was too emotionally flat to be funny. My brother sent me a voice memo that sounded like a press release wrapped in passive aggression. "I think it's really toxic that you're bringing family stuff into your brand. You've always struggled with boundaries." Right. Boundaries. Like the one that said I shouldn't come to a retreat with 118 people because I took up too much space. A cousin chimed in to say she thought I was exaggerating. "It was probably just a misunderstanding," she said, like I'd misread an accidental mass invitation to everyone but me. One aunt said she was praying for me. Another message to say I'd broken my mother's heart. And here's the thing. Part of me wanted to explain, to clarify, to say, "Hey, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was just trying to finally tell the truth." But the truth is, they weren't asking for clarification. They were asking me to shut up, to play the quiet middle child who takes the hit and keeps the peace. And I was tired. That night I filmed a video. It wasn't a stand-up set. It wasn't a sketch. It was just me, sitting on my couch in a hoodie, holding a mug I wasn't drinking from. "Hi," I said. "So, I guess some of you have seen my latest set." And apparently it upset some people. I paused, took a breath. Here's the thing. If your family tells you your jokes aren't funny for 20 years, and then one night hundreds of strangers laugh until they cry, you're allowed to talk about it. You're allowed to heal however you need to. I didn't get loud. I didn't name anyone. I didn't need to. I just told the truth. I used to think I was the least funny person in the world, because my family said so. And then I stepped on stage and people laughed at me, with me, for me. And I realized I wasn't unfunny. I just wasn't their kind of funny. And maybe that's okay. I looked into the camera. "Also," I added, "if you throw a 118-person retreat and say there's no space for your daughter, maybe don't act shocked when she talks about it." I posted it, closed my laptop, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I needed to brace for someone else's reaction. I just sat there and waited. The video didn't just land, it detonated. I posted it at midnight and figured it might get a few thousand views, maybe even go a little viral. I underestimated people's appetite for dry, unflinching honesty delivered in a hoodie. By noon, it had over 300,000 views. By 6 p.m., I was trending under the hashtag Clara Said It. By the next morning, it hit 500,000. And by the time I opened my front door to grab coffee, there they were. My parents. 2 of my siblings. standing on my porch like I was the final boss in a video game they never bothered to level up for. "You need to take it down," my dad said, without a hello. He was red-faced. My mom was tight-lipped and visibly vibrating. My brother, let's call him Chad, because of course it's Chad, stood with his arms crossed like he was posing for a disciplinary poster. "You've humiliated this family," my mother said. "You made us a joke." "I didn't make you a joke," I said, calm as a grave. "You did. I just put it in a punchline." Chad stepped forward. "You can't just post things like that without consequences." "It's defamatory. You didn't seem to mind when I invited you to my shows and nobody showed up," I replied. "Now suddenly you're subscribers?" "We came here to reason with you," my dad said, glancing toward the neighbor's yard. "Can we come in?" "No," I said, flat. "And just a heads up, if you start yelling, I will film you. And I'll post it." They blinked like I'd slapped them. "You're threatening your own family?" my mom gasped. "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself from the same people who cut me out of a 118-person retreat and then got mad when I mentioned it on stage." Chad muttered something under his breath. I raised my phone and opened the camera. They backed off like I'd brandished a weapon. "Bye now," I said, and shut the door. They stood there for a few more seconds. I watched from the peephole. My mom looked like she wanted to scream. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear. Chad looked like he wanted to sue someone, which turned out to be prophetic. Because 3 days later, I got a legal letter. Well, legal-ish. Typed in Times New Roman, with weird spacing and more typos than a phishing scam. Sent via email with the subject line, "Urgent Family Concern." It was from Chad. Apparently, he decided to draft a cease and desist letter demanding I take the video down immediately or face legal repercussions for defamation. Yes, defamation. I didn't even know whether to be insulted or impressed. To be clear, Chad does have a law degree, but it's in international trade law, and he currently works in corporate compliance for a shipping company. The most aggressive thing he's ever sued is probably a broken office chair. I didn't respond to the letter. I made a video instead. I didn't name him. I didn't show the actual document. I just read a totally fictional cease and desist letter with comical typos and added dramatic music for flair. "I've been asked to remove my video," I said in the voiceover, because apparently pointing out that I wasn't invited to my own family's retreat is now a federal crime. Somewhere, the First Amendment is weeping. The video went up on a Thursday. By Friday, I had 900,000 views and 3 interview requests. People loved it, especially the deadpan delivery and the fake signature I read aloud. "Respectfully yours, Chad the Enforcer, Esquio." On Saturday, I blocked everyone. All of them. I'd held out hope that maybe, just maybe, someone in the family would reach out and say, "Hey, we messed up," or "I see you now." But no, the messages were all about damage control, about optics, about embarrassment. No one said sorry. No one asked how I felt. So I gave them the silence they never earned but definitely deserved. Group chats. Exited. Facebook. Locked. Instagram. Archived. Even Spotify. Scrubbed of every playlist we'd ever shared. My mom sent me one final message before she got blocked. "You've made a laughingstock of your own family. I hope you're proud." And the thing is, I wasn't proud. Not exactly, but I wasn't ashamed either. I was free. The fallout was ugly. Some of my siblings who work in music started losing small contracts. Apparently, people didn't want to be associated with a family being dragged in the public eye, which is ironic, because suddenly they were also getting podcast invites. Every minor influencer with a podcast titled "Let's Talk About It" or "Raw and Real" wanted them on to discuss growing up with Clara. A few accepted. They didn't use my name directly, but let's just say when your brother goes on a podcast called Family First and says, "Some people just thrive on playing the victim," it's not exactly a mystery who he means. Meanwhile, YouTubers did what YouTubers do best. They dug. Someone found my mom's Facebook. Another found the resort name on a cousin's tagged photo and connected the dots. Soon, a few creators started reaching out to the family. One even showed up at their house to ask for comment. 2 weeks later, my parents sold the house. The official reason was downsizing, but we both know better. They moved to another town quietly. One of my sisters deleted her social media. Another posted a vague statement about taking a break from public life. And me? I didn't say a word. I didn't celebrate. I didn't throw a party. I just kept making videos. Not about them, at least not directly. Just stories, observations, skits. The kind of things that made people feel seen, made them laugh. And when I looked at the comments, I saw something I never got growing up. Relatable. Thanks for saying what I couldn't. I thought I was the only one. And for the first time, I felt not alone, not unwanted, not a Clara joke, just Clara. And that was enough. Fast forward a year. I'm still no contact with my family, and honestly, I don't miss the noise. I've got real friends now. People who laugh with me, not at me. People who see me. And the comedy? It took off. I quit my day job, started touring, and for the first time, I wake up excited about what I do. People come up to me after shows and say, "I thought it was just me." It never is. Sometimes I still wonder, did I do the right thing? Or did I go too far? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. After an earthquake, I asked to stay at my parents' with my 5-year-old daughter. They said, without the child. We don't have space for her. She burst into tears. I didn't cry. I just said, noted. 3 days later, they were regretting everything. There was an earthquake, not the movie kind with skyscrapers falling, just a violent jolt that made the walls shudder and my cupboards scream, the sound of plates dying. When it stopped, my daughter Ruby, 5 years old and small for her age, stood in the doorway clutching her stuffed fox like it might bite the shaking away. "Mommy," she whispered. "It's okay." I lied. By morning, a city inspector in a hard hat used the word unlivable. He slapped a red sticker on my door and walked off like he'd just said good luck. I looked at Ruby's small hand in mine and thought, there's no plan B. So I called my parents. Mom answered on the second ring. "Of course, honey. You can come," she said. Warm, quick, like it cost her nothing. I could have cried with relief. Back then, I didn't ask what she meant. Didn't double-check that "you can come" included my 5-year-old daughter. Didn't think I needed to. I mean, who calls their mother to confirm they're allowed to bring their daughter? My parents lived 5 hours away, in the same house where I grew up. With them was my older sister, Brittany, her boyfriend, Shane, and Brittany's 3 kids from her first marriage. It was a full house, sure, but they had spare rooms, and they were family. Ruby and I packed fast. Clothes, toothbrushes, the fox, 1 bag of snacks. While I buckled her in, she asked if the house was really broken. I said yes. She asked if Grandma's house was big. I said big enough. It was almost sunset when we pulled into my parents' driveway. The porch light was on, the way it always was when I came home for holidays. For a moment, I felt safe. Mom opened the door before I could knock. "Mara, you made it!" Her smile froze when she saw Ruby behind me. "Oh, you brought her." For a heartbeat, I waited for the joke. It didn't come. Yeah. Kind of hard to leave a 5-year-old home alone. Mom blinked, already flustered. We just thought it would be you. The house is packed. Brittany's here with the kids, Shane's using the den, the basement's a game room. There's nowhere to put another child. Ruby, half hiding behind my leg, whispered, I can sleep on the couch. Mom sighed. Sweetheart, it's not that simple. Not for Brittany's kids, I said. They live here, she shot back. Right. They live here. Translation, you don't. Brittany appeared, perfect hair, a phone in hand. Hey, Mara. Crazy quake, huh? Glad you're okay, but we're totally out of beds. Ruby's face went red. Her hand tightened on my coat. Mom folded her arms. You can stay. We'll make it work for a few nights. But maybe Ruby could stay somewhere else? It's just too much chaos for a little one. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Without the child? Mom nodded like she was offering a sensible solution. Just until things settle. Ruby's voice cracked. I'll be good, Grandma. Mom smiled at her the way people smile at stray kittens. It's not about being good, honey. It's just a full house. From the back room came laughter and video game noise. I gave a short laugh. Right. Wouldn't want to disturb Shane's office. It's a workspace, he called. Sure, I said. Very professional. Ruby started crying then, quietly, like she was sorry for existing. Mom, I said, you think I'm leaving her? You said we could come. Her polite smile didn't move. Mara, please don't make this harder. Harder than what? Telling your granddaughter she doesn't fit? Don't be dramatic. That almost made me laugh. I zipped Ruby's coat. Come on, sweetheart. Where are we going? Somewhere with space. I didn't slam the door, just walked out, their laughter leaking through the walls. The motel was 5 blocks away. Neon sign, $30 a night. Color TV. I checked in, didn't look at the clerk. The room smelled like bleach and defeat. Ruby curled up on one bed and was asleep before her shoes were off. I sat on the other, staring at the ceiling crack that split the room in two. Fitting. That was us now. A clean break. Around 3 a.m., Ruby mumbled. Are we going home soon? Soon, I said. I stayed awake listening to trucks on the highway. Each rumble felt like the ground reminding me who was done shaking. She cried. I didn't. I just said, noted. 3 days later, they were regretting everything. I used to think I grew up in an ordinary family. You know, lawn, dog, matching sweaters at Christmas, the whole American commercial. But if you've ever been the extra child in your own house, you know what I mean when I say there's always a favorite, and it's never you. For us, that favorite was Brittany, 2 years older, taller, louder, blonder, the kind of kid who could break a lamp and get praised for her creative energy. I once got grounded for breathing too close to her science project. Mom said we were different types. Dad said Brittany was the achiever. Apparently, I was the other type. I learned to make myself small early. My bedroom was technically a converted laundry room, mine because I didn't need as much space. Brittany's trophies lived in the hallway. Her friends walked through my room to get to the backyard. I started sleeping with headphones just to pretend privacy existed. Here's the thing. If you live long enough as someone's afterthought, it becomes your native language. You start translating everything into don't cause trouble. So when I turned 17 and got a full scholarship 5 hours away, I packed without a single tear. I remember Mom hugging me at the door and whispering, "We're proud of you." She said it like an apology. College was the first quiet place I'd ever lived. No Brittany, no trophies, no one barging in to ask if I'd seen her mascara. I studied social work. Maybe it was cosmic irony, choosing a career to fix the kinds of families that break you. But it fit. I liked systems, logic, outcomes. I liked helping people who actually wanted help. When graduation came, my parents mailed a card. Love, Mom and Dad. No gift, no visit. Brittany's wedding that same summer cost more than my entire education. I know because Mom accidentally sent me the wrong text, the one meant for Brittany, about floral centerpieces that cost $400 each. I laughed. Then I cried. Then I laughed again. Fast forward 10 years. I was 32, single, overworked, but doing fine. I had a small house, a steady salary, and a healthy skepticism about people who say family is everything. Then I met Ruby. I was assigned to her mother's case, a woman named Trina, mid-20s, 2 DUIs, living week to week. Ruby was 2, all curls and serious eyes. She clung to me the first time we met, arms tight around my neck like a life preserver. Trina rolled her eyes. She likes everybody. That wasn't true. Ruby didn't like everybody. She liked quiet voices. She liked routine. She liked when I brought crayons. For months, I visited twice a week, checked boxes, wrote notes, filled reports. But every time I left, Ruby would stand at the door holding that ridiculous purple sippy cup, watching my car until I turned the corner. Then one week, Trina didn't answer the door, or the next, or ever again. She disappeared, left the state, maybe the country. The caseworkers said, she'll resurface eventually. Ruby stayed with emergency foster care. I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that little face pressed to the window. So I did the things social workers aren't supposed to do. I volunteered to foster her temporarily. Paperwork, background checks, endless forms. But within a month, she was sleeping in my guest room. The first night, she woke up crying. I sat on the floor beside her bed until she fell asleep again. When I finally stood, my legs were numb and my heart wasn't. 3 months later, she called me Mama by accident. I didn't correct her. When the adoption became official, the judge smiled. "Congratulations," he said, like he was handing me a prize. But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like balance finally existing in the world. I called my parents that night, expecting, maybe foolishly, a little excitement. Mom said, "Oh, wow, that's unexpected." Dad said, "Are you sure about this? Raising someone else's kid alone?" Brittany texted, "That's so sweet," with 3 heart emojis. That was the whole family celebration. Still, I drove down that summer to introduce Ruby properly. I wanted her to have grandparents, cousins, laughter, the normal things. Ruby was 4 then, shy but curious. She brought drawings for everyone. Brittany's kids ignored her. Mom accepted the crayon portrait with a tight smile and said, "That's colorful." Over dinner, Dad asked if Ruby knew she was adopted. I said not yet, she was too young. Mom said, "Maybe tell her early. That way she won't think she's really part of the family." I choked on my water. She didn't even blink. Later that night, I overheard her whispering to Brittany in the kitchen, "It's not the same. You can't just buy love." That sentence lodged in my ribs and never came out. Still, I kept visiting. Holidays, birthdays, guilt trips, the usual. I told myself I was doing it for Ruby. She deserved grandparents who mailed birthday cards and smiled in photos. Once, Ruby asked why Grandma only hugged her when cameras were out. I said Grandma's just shy. I lied again. By the time Ruby turned 5, she'd stopped asking to visit. I should have seen the writing on the wall right then. But I'm a social worker. I believe people can change. I didn't sleep that first night in the motel. The ceiling crack looked like it was still moving, and I kept waiting for another tremor. Not from the earth this time, but from myself. By morning, I'd made one decision. I wasn't begging anyone for space again. Ruby was quiet on the drive. Every time we passed a gas station, she asked if we were almost back home. I didn't have the heart to tell her we didn't have one yet. I called Simone, a colleague, part-time saint, while Ruby napped in the back seat. She listened, horrified, then said, "Mara, pack nothing else. Just come here. I have a spare room. Olivia will love having another kid around." That was Simone, empathy in human form. 5 hours later, Ruby and I were at her door. Her house smelled like coffee and normal life. Olivia, her 8-year-old, met us barefoot and smiling. "Hi, want to see my room?" Ruby nodded, and just like that, she disappeared into safety. Simone put a mug in my hand. "Stay as long as you need." I didn't realize until then how long I'd been waiting for someone to say those exact words. For the first time in days, Ruby slept through the night. I didn't. My body was calm, but my brain was sprinting laps. I already knew I owned a third of my parents' house, an inheritance from my grandfather when I was 17. I just never used it, never even thought of it as mine. It was family property, sacred, untouchable, but after being told my child couldn't cross that threshold, something cracked open that had nothing to do with fault lines. I sat at Simone's kitchen table the next morning, flipping through insurance paperwork, when the thought became solid. If I don't have a room there, why am I paying for one? Because I was $200 every month, like clockwork, for upkeep, a small family tax to stay in their good graces. I opened my banking app and stopped the transfer. One tap, done. It felt like cutting a leash. Then came the next question. What now? I pulled up my laptop, searched real estate lawyer near me, and booked an appointment for the next day. When I told Simone, she didn't try to talk me out of it. She just said, "About time." The lawyer was a woman named Franklin, 50-ish, calm, voice like granite. She looked over the deed and said, "You're listed as tenant in common with your parents and sister. You're free to sell your share or petition for a sale of the entire property," I said, "even if they live there?" "Especially if they live there." I laughed. It came out brittle. "So it's legal to reclaim the floor they stand on." She didn't smile. "Perfectly legal." That was all I needed. I told her to move forward. She drafted the notice that afternoon. By the time I left her office, the world felt sharper, more precise, like I'd finally picked up the right tool after years of fighting with my hands. 3 days later, the letter went out. Certified mail, return receipt, the whole symphony. I didn't warn them. Why spoil the surprise? The phone rang the next evening. Caller ID. "Mom." "Of course." I answered. "Hi, Mom." No hello from her. Just, "What have you done?" "I assume you mean legally or emotionally." "Mara, this letter." "You're selling the house?" "Our home?" "Our," I echoed. Interesting pronoun. In the background, Brittany's voice pierced through. "She's doing this because of that child." "That child has a name," I said. Mom snapped. "You can't do this to your family." "Pretty sure my family already did this to me." Dad's voice came next, shaky attempt at reason. "Sweetheart, think about this. You grew up there. I also grew up invisible there," I said. "You remember that part?" Brittany grabbed the phone. "You'll make us homeless!" "You'll make yourselves homeless," I said calmly. "I'm just selling my share." There was shouting, overlapping, panicked, self-righteous. I held the phone away like it was on fire. Then I brought it back and said, "You could always buy me out." "Where do you expect us to get that kind of money?" Mom demanded. "Oh, I don't know," I said. "Maybe from the endless space you saved by not housing my daughter." Then I hung up. I expected guilt. Instead, I felt clarity, a clean, electric kind. Simone found me standing by the window, staring out at nothing. "Let me guess," she said. "They called. They screamed," I said. "So yes, progress." She nodded. "Pie or wine?" "Both." We ate in silence. Ruby and Olivia drew chalk flowers on the driveway, their laughter cutting through the heaviness like sunlight through blinds. I thought the earthquake was the worst thing that could happen. Turns out, that was just the opening act. By April, Ruby slept fine again. I didn't. Every night I stared at Simone's ceiling, waiting for the universe to remember I still owed it something. When the phone finally rang, I almost thanked it. "Your parents responded," Franklin said. Of course they did. Guilt has a slow fuse but perfect aim. "They're claiming they already gave you your inheritance," she went on, "that they spent your share raising you." I laughed so hard I scared the cat. "So my childhood was a loan? Should I Venmo them for diapers?" "It's a delay tactic," she said. "Delay. Sure." But something in her voice said buckle up. The next morning, the gossip started. Not local, 5 hours buys you distance, but social media travels faster than traffic. Brittany's post. Some people would evict their own parents if it made them feel powerful. Mom commented with a heart emoji. Simone slid her phone across the table. "You okay?" "Great," I said. "I've always wanted to trend for parricide." I told myself I didn't care. Then I imagined Ruby reading those posts someday and felt my throat close. The worst part? The likes. Dozens of them. People love a villain they can recognize from Thanksgiving. A week later, Franklin called again. "I found something," she said. "You'll want to sit down." "I'm already lying flat," I said. "Go ahead." "There's a mortgage on the property. A big one. I know they took a loan years ago." "You signed it," she said. "I what?" She sent the file. 3 seconds later, my email dinged. 4 signatures. Mom, Dad, Brittany, me. Except the me part was a stranger's handwriting trying too hard. Clean, steady, practiced, like love letters forged for cash. I called Franklin back. "That's not my signature." "I assumed," she said. "We'll need to report it." For the next 48 hours, I moved like a ghost. I cooked dinner, helped Ruby with homework, smiled at Simone. Inside, the ground was already cracking again. They hadn't just used me. They'd used me. My name, my trust, my stupid silence. The court hearing was scheduled a week later. Another 5-hour drive. 5 hours to think about what betrayal sounds like in legal language. When we walked in, Mom gave me the look she used to save for stains on the carpet. Brittany crossed her arms like she was posing for martyrdom. Dad stared at the floor. The judge skimmed the advancement claim, sighed, and tossed it out like a bad script. Then Franklin mentioned the mortgage. The room went still. Mom's face drained. Brittany's mouth opened. Dad's knuckles went white. The judge said the word forgery, and something inside me unclenched. That was the moment I knew. Whatever came next, I wasn't the broken one anymore. The investigation moved fast. The bank confirmed it. Signature fake, documents false, everything smelling of desperation. Repayment demanded immediately. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt old. Mom called that night. "How could you do this to us?" "Pretty sure I didn't sign your mortgage," I said. "You're remembering wrong." "I'm remembering breathing while you committed a felony." Brittany's voice broke in, shrill. "You'll make us homeless!" "Welcome to the club," I said, and hung up. Weeks blurred. The lender wanted its money. Their lawyer begged for mercy. Facebook kept bleeding pity posts, family destroyed by greed. Simone started hiding them from me. "You don't need that," she said. "I do," I said. "It's proof." "Proof of what?" "That even after the truth, they'll still choose the prettier lie." The sale order came next. Court-appointed agent. Fair market listing. The house I grew up in was suddenly a link on a real estate website. The photos looked fake. Sunlight too clean, floors too shiny. No sign of the crack in the hallway wall I used to trace with my finger when I was 10. Franklin called the morning it sold. "Funds are cleared. After the mortgage payoff and fees, your parents and sister get almost nothing. Your 1/3 is untouched." I thanked her. My voice didn't sound like mine. That night, Ruby and Olivia were drawing with chalk on the sidewalk. Ruby looked up and said, "Mommy, are we done now?" "Yeah," I said. "We're done." But I knew the worst hadn't hit yet. It never ends with the money. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Text from Mom. "We lost everything because of you. No apology, no confusion, just accusation. Clean, perfect, familiar." I stared at it until the letters blurred, then deleted it. Simone came out with 2 beers. "You look like someone survived a storm." "I did," I said. "They just don't know they're still in it." Later, when the house was legally theirs no longer, I lay awake thinking about my forged signature, how they'd practiced it, how careful you have to be to copy someone you never truly saw. That's the part that keeps me up, not the crime, the precision. A few months later, I'm home. The repairs are finally done. New walls, new foundation, no cracks, no red tags. Just quiet. Our house feels solid again. And this time, it's really ours. The sale from my parents' house finally closed. It went for $618,000. After the mortgage, lawyer fees, and all the chaos were stripped out, my 1/3 came to $203,000. It was enough to pay off the rest of my own mortgage in full. One bank transfer and I owned this place outright. Every nail, every square inch. No debt, no landlords, no ghosts. Ruby helped me hang the welcome home sign on the door. She made it herself. Letters cut out of colored paper, taped crooked, perfect. She keeps saying this house feels stronger. Maybe she's right. Maybe it's because this time we built the foundation without asking anyone's permission. As for the rest of the family, well, gravity hit them hard. My parents and Brittany didn't see a cent from the sale. Every dollar of their 2/3 went straight to the bank to pay off the forged mortgage. They lost everything. Mom and Dad now rent a small studio on the edge of town. Brittany's boyfriend, Shane, left her the second the checks cleared. She's working 2 jobs, raising her 3 kids alone, still posting quotes about forgiveness that somehow never mention her own crimes. We don't talk. We don't need to. Last I heard, they still blame me, which is fine. They can hate me from their rentals. I've got walls that don't shake anymore. It's strange how quiet life gets once the noise leaves. Ruby still spends weekends with Olivia. They build forts, paint each other's nails, and argue about who gets the last popsicle. She's started Aikido classes too. Balance, not force. I think she understands it better than I ever did. Sometimes, when the ground trembles under passing trucks, I still flinch. But the house holds. Maybe that's the difference now. This house stands because I stopped begging for space and started claiming it. So, what do you think? Did I go too far? Or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.